Hi guys, welcome to another interesting video from me. Okay, now I hope you're sitting down. This is all about the DPF filter. Okay, so I hope you're listening to it. Now, for you, the guys who are already following me, you see many a shorts on TikTok, on YouTube and Instagram, me talking about them very quickly. But this video, I'm going to try to go as much detail as possible and the reasons behind all the problems, I believe, with all my years of, all my years of experience in this field. So, quick insight on what we do for the last 24, 25 years, DKU performance builds custom exhaust systems. Now, as in the last 10 years, 15 years, maybe after 2012, something called a DPF filter got introduced to by the manufacturers to keep the emission levels down. After catalyst converter, it was to keep the carbon levels down. Now, I have a conspiracy theory behind it. The reason for that is because of the fuel and the additives in the fuel that create all the rest of the, let's say, the soot increase. But I'm not going to get into that much. My consumers who already use me know what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to get into like a keyboard warrior kind of thing. I'm going to talk about the DPF itself. So, prior to 2012, all manufacturers and diesel vehicles have a DPF filter after the catalyst. Now, that collects loads of soot. What does that do then? Once it's collecting the soot, after a period of time, you have to get the vehicle up to temperature in order for it to regenerate itself. Okay? Once the DPF regenerates itself, it removes all the carbon deposits. Nevertheless, we live in England. Majority of the time we get really good weather and there's times we don't. And we get a lot of people that just commute especially in the last 4 or 5 years, they either use a car after a week, don't use it, or they're working from home, or a kid's run, or just down the road run 4 or 5 miles. You cannot, it's impossible to get a diesel car up to temperature in accordance to get it to regenerate. Now, nevertheless, the carbon then builds up over a period of time, and the pressure sensors then indicate the fact, ping, light comes up on your dashboard saying, there's a problem, okay? Car probably going to, whatever manufacturer car it is, goes into limp mode, all hell breaks loose, you go to the local garage and they put it in and say, you've got a DPF problem. Costly, obviously, then you have to replace it. Or people start to clean it or start going online and going to likes of Halfords and the local car parts places and get all the additives and trying to do it yourself. Now, everything takes a cycle, right? And I'm not disregarding the fact that when people go and do that, there's not a problem with that. Yes, of course, but everything takes a kind of a cycling. But the main part of this is this. Now, when you are adding any kind of additive anywhere, it has to be cycled out. So let's say, for example, you put something in the fuel, right? You need to have a full tank. Right? So once you put it in the fuel, you need to let that cycle through the, let's say, the diesel pump in order for it to go into the combustion chamber in order for it to start cleaning all the carbon deposits, or whatever method you're using, there's a cycle involved. 99% of the people that come here at DKU Performance, they've tried everything, but they never cycled it. What we do here, we have several solutions in order for you to understand what we do. And we get a lot of critics online and say, well, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? Look, we're exhaust manufacturers. We've been working with DPFs for the last 8 years. We have some amazing machines that work. And I'm not saying they were 100% successful at all times, because we can't see inside your filter. Because if I put a picture up here now, you'll see that you have to have like a super microscopic, and then you need to get, it's difficult. So far, I believe that you understand what I'm talking about. So I'm trying to interest this video and not go into too much detail. So basically, nobody could see inside there, right, unless you've got big machinery in accordance to do that. So what happens then? I'll tell you now. So we have four solutions that we do. Solution number 1 is on that machine there. It's a hydrogen carbon cleaning machine. Now what does it do? It's hydrogen gas from a pipe. It adds hydrogen gas directly into the airbox while the vehicle's running. It controls the RPM on the vehicle, okay? Increases bore temperature with the fuel. So the vehicle's running, okay? The fuel's coming through the combustion chamber to make it work. Hydrogen gas comes in as normal pace. It revs to about 1,000 to 1,500 RPM to 2,000 RPM by the machine, okay? To increase the amount of flow of hydrogen gas. Once it does that, increases the bore temperature, which then allows the regeneration of the DPF. But there's a possibility, if your vehicle's already had a number of cycles and it's gone to limp mode, there's a possibility it doesn't happen. We generally use a solution 1 in order for you guys to have it constantly serviced so you don't have a long-term problem with DPF. And a lot of consumers come back to us once they have the other 2 and 3 and 4 solutions. But anyway, so what happens then, it cleans out all the carbon deposits with the high temperature bore temperatures and allows it to flow out, and you get better throttle response, loads of carbon deposits removed from the back. It works, okay. Now, let's move on to solution 2, our most popular one. What does solution number 2 do? Now, solution number 2 is the additive. Now, it's not the normal general additive that you get online or wherever you get it from. It's actually more enhanced for our trade, and I've looked into it a lot, and let me allow you, it's not in my interest to kind of tell you too much, but trust me, it works. It's from Europe, and it works really well. Now, what happens with that? We directly inject I think we've got something here. You can see it in the background right there. So they've just injected it now. We inject it directly into the DPF by removing or taking off an element of plugs or maybe pressure sensors or O2 sensors to directly inject a certain amount of solution into the DPF, okay? So that's not additive to the fuel or any other method, or when you're trying to do it at home and you can't open anything and you're just trying to get it in. Obviously, we're professionals who do that. We're exhaust specialists, so we know exactly what to do. And there's many problems that can occur, but we could talk about that in another video in your exhaust systems. You know, if it's rusty or whatever not, you're in the best place because we remanufacture exhaust systems. So when things are rusty, we could always get around them and happen that. But anyway, we'll talk about it in another video. Sorry, I'm not boring you, am I? Right, anyway, moving on. So we then directly inject the solution into the DPF. Okay, leave it there for 2-3 hours, let it break all the carbon deposits down, nice and slushy, ready to go. Now, how do you remove it? Obviously, you start up the car 3 hours later, let it get up to temperature. But how do we get it up to temperature without driving it? Voila, there you are, the hydrogen carbon cleaning machine. So we then put the pipe back on, switch on the machine, let it control itself, increase the bore temperatures dramatically, okay, which then starts breaking down all the carbon deposits inside the engine and then helps with the solution and increases the bore temperature inside your, inside the DPF. I was losing that, it's a long video. Look, oh guys, I haven't got no script here, I'm just telling you offhand, right? So what happens then is it increases the bore temperature, the exhaust fumes then start going through the DPF also, increases the bore temperatures around the DPF, through the pressure sensors can indicate that, starts breaking up all the carbon deposits, and in this video you'll see right to the end what happens with those cars where they start smoking out the back, okay? So you think, oh wow, Mads, that's amazing, but it doesn't stop there, okay? Once we've had a 2 to 3 or a 4 hour solution from ourselves, we then ask you guys to go out for a minimum of an hour. From the moment you could get it up to 2,000 RPM minimum, 2,000 RPM for a minimum for an hour. Okay, so we generally say an hour, okay? A long, steady drive to allow for the recalibration of the ECU to understand that all the pressure sensors could recalibrate themselves. Now, I did want not to forget that as a goodwill gesture, we'll come back to it just before you go for the drive, is that we go into our machine and reset all your, reset all of your counters on the DPF, right, to make sure everything's all decreased, and if any problems come on, you can see that further on, but it completely wipes, hopefully 99% of the time, it wipes off all your codes, and off you go on the drive. Now, the pressure sensors recalibrate themselves, and off you go. As you're driving it, this is a long video, isn't it? Right, anyway, as you're driving it, so over 2,000 RPM, what does it do then? It allows all the solutions and everything completely to burn out through the hydrogen machine. It's already done that. The rest of the remainder of the solutions inside your DPF. This is not in your fuel, by the way, so you don't have to fill up your tank, add to it, and then drive the whole tank, which will take you 400-500 miles, which you're not going to do in a day. Leave the debris inside, leave the solutions, whatever it is, through the fuel tank inside there in order for it to start corroding away everywhere else. That's my theory behind it, but anyway, it's just going to literally come out because it's been injected directly where? In the DPF filter. Okay, so it's in the DPF filter. So when the exhaust temperatures are even more higher when you're driving the car with AFR temperatures rising, air and fuel ratio, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Anyway, as you're driving it for an hour, it completely and hopefully cleans out everything. But what does it clean out the most of? Right, I hope 99% of you guys out there have already had a barbecue, right? So what do you have in barbecue? You have coal, and what can't you get rid of at the end when the coal burns out? Is ash. Similar sort of scenario with what? With the soot. So the soot starts to burn up, burn up, burn up, burn up, and it leaves ash. Now that particular drive then allows the ash to be removed. And that's why we always ask you to leave it above 2,000 RPM, which is a suitable speed within the speed limits of any road, any country, doesn't matter where you are. We'll never promote you to drive fast. Anyway, right, okay, 2,000 RPM plus, it allows it to clean out the soot and also the ash, which then, at the end of it, gives you a car without problems. And then we promote you to constantly make sure that you're driving your car constantly. It's always above a quarter of a tank, okay? No less, and you're using enough fuel in order for you to renew the fuel, even if it's once a week, so have nice, fresh fuel in your vehicle. Above quarter of a tank, and like I said, we have a very high success rate, and it works. So for those of you guys who don't understand it, please, it regenerates itself, because what we do here, we break it down with a solution, put in a hydrogen machine, which allows you to do what? Increase the boil temperatures, which allows you to get a regeneration. So we can allow that to do that through an OBD as well, through a diagnostic machine, right? Which then breaks down everything. Off you go for a drive, removes the carbon deposits also, gets rid of all the rest of the debris, hopefully all the ash, for a long drive, and gives you a clean DPF. Now, if it doesn't work, it's because the DPF is damaged. Simple as. There's nothing you can do about that. It needs to be replaced. But I think this video has been long enough. The solution number 3 and number 4. But you know what? You'll have to wait for that. I'll have to make that video next time. So we also have that machine, which is solution number 3. And solution number 4, I'll talk about in another video. Guys, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope it was interesting. Leave your comments down below. Just give me a break. I'll see you on the next vid.